think I made my first gingerbread house not long after we got married. It was like a new Christmas tradition for our new household. Fast forward, and when we had kids, I then used to make the house and let each person decorate one side, and everybody had a bowl of decorating lollies and a separate bowl of eating lollies, just to keep it fun. And then eventually I started my website and my YouTube channel, and I started designing my own gingerbread house templates so that other people could make the same houses. And usually for inspiration on what the actual house was going to look like, I'd look at other designs or movies like for the Up House, or for actual architectural buildings to get ideas of what sort of shape it should be. But this year I wanted to see if AI image generators could help come up with something unique and new and never seen before, and an amazingly creative gingerbread house. The majority of the training data images for the words gingerbread house must have been for your typical 4 walls and sloped roof, because that's all I'm getting. It doesn't matter how imaginative and whimsical I ask it to be, they're all the same, with the exception of this one. Let's try abandoning the word gingerbread and trying a cute model of a house. Ooh, I quite like some of these. Now, to turn these into a gingerbread house, first of all I have to design the template. Your standard house, of course, has 4 walls and 2 roof pieces, so 6 pieces in all, but this one I think is going to end up with 14 different pieces. Next we need to draw the pieces in the size that we want the house to be, so we can check all of these will fit in the oven, and cut all of those bits out and then build it. Now we can measure for the roof and decide how big we want the overhang to be. And I've hit a slight problem. You see, in the picture this wall is 3 bricks wide at the top, and then by the time it gets down to the bottom it has shrunk significantly, meaning this area of steps barely exists. But we need it in 3D. The only other way to make it that small would be to put the wall on an angle leaning, and that's not what they've got in the picture either, so we'll just go with wider steps. And then finally, because we're making this out of gingerbread and not paper, we have to make adjustments for the thickness of the walls so that some sit inside the others. And now we need to actually make it out of gingerbread. Let me know as we go if you spot anything else that you think gives away that it was an AI inspired design. First of all, we need to make the gingerbread dough, and this is a really easy recipe to make. You just put all the ingredients in the one bowl, and you can customize the spice level to suit you. I'll put all the recipe quantities and the template on my howtocookThat.net website for you, and you don't need a stand mixer to mix this together, you can just use your muscles. But whatever method you use, keep mixing it until you can't see any more flour. The dough will be really soft at first, so you need to wrap it in plastic wrap and then put it in the fridge for a couple of hours just to let it firm up a bit. That'll make it much easier to handle. Then roll out the dough to the size of the template pieces. Then cut them out using a pizza cutter. And pro tip, leave an extra border of gingerbread around any of the pieces that you want straight edges on, or you need an exact size for. If you bake it without those borders, then in the oven the gingerbread spreads out and expands, which is great for cookies but not so good for building houses. Then you want to bake those. Any small thin pieces will only take about 15 minutes. The big pieces, you need to bake those for 15 minutes, then take them out of the oven and redo all your cuts, making sure they're all nice and straight, and remove those borders. They're great for eating later. And then you want to put it back in the oven for anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, depending on the size and thickness of your pieces. Keep an eye on them so that you don't burn them after you've done all of that work. And now onto assembly. You must make homemade royal icing. The store-bought stuff just does not hold things together like this does. Add in the bit that juts out on one side, and now put in our wall that is the same width the whole way down. It doesn't magically shrink like theirs did. And the wonderful thing with gingerbread is if any of your pieces don't quite fit, you can use a grater just to take a little bit off, or you can use a serrated knife if you need to cut a large piece off. And obviously if I'm doing that, I'm going to go and adjust it on the template to make sure it's right for the next person that's making it. The roof on this house design is not very steeply sloped, which actually makes it a lot easier for assembly because it's not going to slide off. Now to decorate. You have a choice here. You can use royal icing like we just used to put it all together, or you can use fondant, which a lot of people don't really like the taste of, so it's a bit of a waste, or you can do what I'm going to do and use chocolate. I'm just using oil-based food colouring here to get the colours that I need, and make sure you don't use water-based colours or the chocolate will seize. Chocolate is great for this purpose because it can be carved or cut into whatever shape you need. Decorating this house is going to be a bit like building a Lego set, except you have to make all of the bricks first before you start. I have some exciting news for you though. The audiobook of Dave's second novel is now available. So for those of you who don't like to read the print version, you want to listen to it, you can go and get that. While I'm doing the next bit of decorating, I'm going to let you listen to part of one of the chapters. It's narrated by Dave.
Chapter 11. "How's your father doing, Rose?" Lord Battersby called over his shoulder as he led them down the long corridor. "Oh, he's rather well, thank you," Rose replied. "Full of energy, as always, and still playing rugby every weekend with the old boys from school." "At his age, he's mad." "Well, if you're not willing to go crazy, don't turn up to the party," Rose quipped, then smiled at Murph. "Gandhi said that." "No, Gandhi definitely did not say that," Murph shook his head. Walking a few steps behind Lord Battersby, Rose drew Murph close and whispered, "Once we're inside the secure area, you'll have to keep him talking for at least 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Rose, I don't know the first thing about this guy," he rasped back. "Just ask him about yachts or his business or how he thinks the war is going. Toffs love to talk about themselves." "Sheesh," Murph hissed through gritted teeth as they turned a corner and approached the governor's office. Rose spotted a bored-looking US soldier leaning against the doorframe further along the corridor. A sign on the door read, "US Army Logistics." The red-haired soldier tapped his foot to the faint jazz music that wafted from the ballroom. He straightened up as soon as he saw Lord Battersby. Yes, good evening," Battersby replied offhandedly and opened the governor's office. Murph swallowed hard as they stepped into a huge room filled wall to wall with oak furniture and looming bookshelves. He felt smaller than ever, like a pawn in a game of chess, about to be sacrificed for the Queen. Lord Battersby made a beeline for the liquor cabinet. It was unlocked and had been fully restocked since their boozy meeting earlier that week. "Oh, lovely, look at this one here," the Brit cooed. Rose didn't waste any time. She gently pushed Murph in the middle of his back until he was alongside the Lord. Then she looked around the office until she spotted a small alcove with a desk, usually reserved for the governor's receptionist. "What do you feel like, Rose?" Lord Battersby removed his head from the cabinet and looked over at her. "To be honest, I'm feeling a little lightheaded. I might just take a seat in the receptionist area for a few minutes if you don't mind," she said, leaning dramatically against a nearby couch. "Oh, yes, of course, my dear." He waved her towards the alcove, then whispered to Murph, "We all know the ladies aren't good with the alcohol." Murph chuckled along, despite having absolutely no idea how the ladies were with the alcohol. He watched her drift nonchalantly towards the alcove in the far corner of the office, and couldn't help but be impressed. Rose was by no means a shrinking violet, but she could certainly act the helpless damsel when the situation required. As Lord Battersby poured a generous glass of whiskey, Rose caught Murph's eye and made a silent writing motion with her hand. Then she stepped out of sight. "And Murph, what can I get for you?" "I'll just take a Coca-Cola, thanks. On duty and all that," Murph said, not wanting to let on that he was underage. "Oh, jolly good. Very responsible of you." Then Murph pulled out a small notepad and pencil from his jacket pocket, tapped the pencil twice on the paper, and wrote at the top, "Lord Battersby, December 23, 1942. "Okay, Lord Battersby, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself?" As soon as she was out of Battersby's line of sight, Rose pulled a key from her handbag. Then she stepped over to a door on the other side of the secretary's alcove. She inserted the key into the handle and, as quietly as possible, unlocked the door to the adjoining office. Rose paused. Then she pulled a small flashlight from her purse and crept into the US Army Logistics Office. At the same time, down the long corridor, Elgato stepped out of a small storeroom, and he quickly headed along the corridor. He walked lightly for a big man, keeping close to the wall with his head down. Both hands were clasped behind his back, trying to appear casual, while also holding a switchblade in his fist. Rounding the corner, he spotted the red-headed soldier up ahead and eased back into a doorway. The soldier hadn't seen him, and after a few seconds he checked his watch, then turned and strolled down the hall in the opposite direction. Elgato waited 30 seconds. Crossing the hall, he put an ear to the door of the governor's office. He could hear two voices, both male. "Where are you, my lovely?" he whispered in Russian. Elgato stepped back and looked down the hall to where the soldier had been standing. He read the sign on the door, and a scowl crept over his face as he twirled the switchblade in one hand. Inside the US military annex, Rose was crouched over a filing cabinet, flicking through paperwork marked top secret, when she heard the metallic clink at the door. Instantly she switched off her flashlight and the office turned black. The door rattled again. But it wasn't the sound of a key. It was a knife in the lock. Someone was breaking in. Or rather, someone else was breaking in.
Sorry to stop you there. You can listen to the rest of it on Audible or Spotify or wherever you get your audiobooks from. Just search for The Deep Ender's Deadline or Dave Reardon and you'll be able to find it. Moving on to the roof. Making each of these Spanish barrel roof tiles individually would have taken way too long. So I made a 3D model and printed that, and then took a mould using food grade moulding gel so I could make these out of chocolate. I've then added some different food colour to add some variation in the tile colours, and then brushed them all over with a little cocoa powder to make them look a bit aged. I'm really happy with how this roof turned out. I really like it. Now onto the floor. We can't leave it plain, but I really do not want to make enough chocolate bricks to cover the whole base. So let's just add a few to give the impression that it's a cobblestone floor. Now add the lanterns into place. This one broke a little when I was putting it on, so I just need to redo the chocolate lines going down. And next we need plants, and I'm not sure what to make these from, so let's experiment with some blended coconut, a drop of green colouring, some sugar, almond meal, and a little bit of flour, maybe some melted butter. And it's not moist enough, so let's add an egg white. Mix that all together or rub it together and then sprinkle it onto baking paper and bake. Now put the chocolate table into place and add a couple of plant pots on top. And now we're going to need a little bit more chocolate to hold our plants in place. These actually turned out tasting really yummy, and I definitely should have measured the ingredients instead of just chucking it in, but I was experimenting. I made a couple of flowers out of soft candy, just cut that out and press the petals together, and I'm pretty happy with how this looks for quick plants. And it's done. Now, apart from the width of that wall that we talked about at the beginning, there are a couple of other things that might give away that this was an AI-inspired design. So let's talk about those. On the original, all the lanterns were very different to each other. Mine are a little more similar, but they're not exactly the same. Then there's this window. The top of it is at door height, but it's half blocked by the stairs at the bottom. And if I moved the window higher to the position that they had it in, it would actually be spanning right across floor level for the second story. So the window would be going here and the second story floor would be going here, which would be highly unusual. And then there's this cute little balcony with plants growing on it. But if you take a good look at the balcony, you'll notice there's actually no way of getting out here. It's got no door. And then there's this orange door. I actually had to move this to the left because they had it all the way across to the right, and if you position it there, when you walked in, you would be walking into the steps that are on the other side of that wall and just banging your head. The colour of that door being orange and the others being blue is also a slight hint to the fact that this was AI inspired. You see, a lot of the training data for the images for AI were cinematic quality images, and in cinema, you may not have noticed before, but you will now, they do tend to use a lot of colours that are on the opposite side of each other on the colour wheel. So for example, the orange on one side and the bluey tealy colours on the other. It's used in a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows. And so because that dominates the training data, you'll see the AI image generators tend to favour mimicking that look unless you ask for specific other colours. So the orangey and blue tones of this gingerbread house really do make it look like it's been AI generated. But believe me, it is now a very yummy, very real gingerbread house. If you want something else real this Christmas, why not open up a Bible? There's a Bible app that you can get for free on any app store and read about the first Christmas, the meaning of Christmas. And you might be inspired to get to know the God of the Bible, because he really loves you, really cares for you, and knows everything about you, and still loves you and still cares for you, which I just find amazingly awesome. Make it a great week by being kind to others. Oh, and a huge thank you, of course, to my patrons for your support this year. You guys have been generous and really, really lovely. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas, everyone.